College football fans, black and gold fans, welcome back or welcome in to the Touchdown Black and Gold Vlog, the channel where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape. The channel made and created by the college football fan for the college football fan. If you've been wandering the wilderness, looking for a channel which invites you and all of your fellow college football fanatics as a gathering place, a safe haven for discussion, and a place to give homage to all things college football, welcome home. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks, and guess what? Game week is here. College football is back. It has arrived. Over the weekend, we were pleased to have excellent games in week 0, the big one across the pond in Ireland between Florida State and Georgia Tech. G-Tech pulls the top 10 upset, very first game of the 2024 season. What a way to start it off. Now, what I've got on tap for you to do today, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I like to talk about all things college football, but since it is game week and I have not recorded this subject yet, today is all about the black and gold of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Today is my 2024 Iowa Hawkeye season preview and predictions episode, so please hang out, enjoy it, kick back, relax. Fellow Hawkeye fans, college football fans, let's see where we can agree or some places agree to disagree on how I see this upcoming season playing out. On tap during this episode, I will share with you some areas of confidence, some areas of concern with the 2024 Hawkeyes. Definitely going to then share with you some of my stars for this upcoming season for the Hawkeyes. And then I will give you my official record prediction for the Hawkeyes to let you know where I think they will officially end up, what the ceiling is for the Hawkeyes, and the floor for this upcoming season for the black and gold of the Hawkeyes. But before that, I need to go ahead and give you all a big shout out and much love, Sammy Sosa style, for your continued support and attention, your time for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Everything is trending in the right direction. Please, if you like what you hear or what you see, get involved. Like, share, rate, comment, subscribe. I want to find more college football fans just like you, and it is an absolute pleasure to be back with you again here on the weekly, sharing my love for all things college football with you, my fellow college football fanatics and fans. So please, spread the word, subscribe, click that notification button. And as always, if this is your first time joining me here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, I always encourage and welcome your involvement. Please comment below in the section. Exercise your college football voice, your right. I can't wait to hear from you, and I promise I will get back to each and every one of you individually much sooner than later. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my 2024 Iowa Hawkeye season preview and prediction episode. But once upon a time, a wise man said, you must sometimes move backwards before you move forwards. So to review and recap Iowa's 2023 season, I wanted to share with you quickly some of the off-season storylines. When the dust and smoke settled, Iowa finished last season 10-4, 10-2 in the regular season, which did accumulate, and the climax of last year's season was the 2023 Big Ten West champions, but they did lose their last 2 games back-to-back in ugly fashion. UGLY, we didn't have an alibi, against Michigan in the Big Ten title game and Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. Yet again, the Iowa offense really that was really what the story was, not just during the offseason, but during the season and even preseason going into 2023. Iowa's offense yet again ranked in the 130s in college football, which, they have been the laughingstock, and deservedly so. I mean, they had the worst offense in all of the Power Four. No longer is it the Power Five. Might take a little getting used to. They have the worst offense in the Power Four. So yes, their offense was offensive at times. But gone is Deacon Hill, the quarterback who was pressed into action last season with the injury due to opening day starter Cade McNamara, the highly coveted transfer from Michigan. So that's really was the ongoing theme, and the overall theme of this Hawkeye team last season was the abysmal offense. And Hawkeye fans, if this is your first time with me, you can kind of see how it is I roll, all right? I am not a Homer Simpson. I will be both objective and subjective, and I will tell you just where I am. I love our Iowa Hawkeyes, but first and foremost, I am a college football fan, all right? That is where my allegiance lies, so it's easy for me to be truthful and to accept and live up to what our team, is and isn't, and also who they need to be, all right? But last season, Iowa's defense yet shined brightly. I mean, they were the fourth best overall unit in the entire country. Really a big reason why they got to 10 wins last season and won the Big Ten West. Also with the help of their studly special teams. Iowa DC defensive coordinator Phil Parker was awarded the Frank Broyles Award, which goes to the best assistant coach in America. I can't believe it's his first one that he's won as the mastermind of Iowa's defense there in Iowa City. It really boggles my mind. This is his first. But with the offensive struggles, out is much embattled offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz, who actually was picked up in the offseason as an offensive analyst at Maryland under head coach Mike Locksley. So we'll see how that plays out. And actually later in the season, Iowa travels to Maryland to take on the Terrapins. So stand by. You can kind of see how I see that game, where I see it going. Enter new offensive coordinator after a long, drug-out offensive coordinator search, which we were kind of asking ourselves as Hawkeye fans and scratching our heads, hey, who are they going to name and when are they going to name an offensive coordinator? But after everything, the much-anticipated hiring, Coach Kirk Ferentz hired former Western Michigan head coach Tim Lester as the new offensive coordinator. The season previous, in 2023, he was an analyst with the Green Bay Packers. So he does have some legit football experience, and he was an OC before becoming a head coach at Western Michigan. As you can recall, the Broncos of Western Michigan, definitely year in, year out, one of the more formidable teams in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. So we'll see how this plays out during this season. Now, what's changed in the Big Ten to bring you up to speed in case you've missed? The Big Ten welcomes 4 new teams from the Pacific time zone, 4 teams formerly of the Pac-12. We welcome UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington into the Big Ten, making it an even bigger 18 teams now in the conference, spanning all 4 time zones from east to west, west to east. Very impressive. And also with that, gone are the divisions. So no longer is there a Big Ten East and Big Ten West. Basically, it comes down to, at the very end of the regular season, the 2 best teams will be matched up for the opportunity in Indianapolis to raise the Big Ten title trophy, and that'll be determined by many tiebreakers, which I don't think the Big Ten has unveiled their tiebreakers quite yet. If they have, somebody please share that with me. Link it below, comment, and comment, like, share, subscribe. Please get involved. And the last thing that changed in the offseason within the Big Ten were the protected crossover and rivalry games. So these are teams that will play each other each and every year, which it is nice to keep those traditional rivalries, but it's very difficult, especially with the unbalanced scheduling that we now have with the 18 teams total that I previously mentioned. Everybody has at least one, except for the Penn State Nittany Lions. I guess nobody wanted to swipe right with Penn State. Our Iowa Hawkeyes actually have the most, with 3 protected rivalries and crossover games. Each and every year within conference, they will play Minnesota for the Floyd of Rosedale, Wisconsin for the Heartland Trophy, and Nebraska for the Heroes Trophy. And hopefully that matchup stays as it is this year on Black Friday. I love seeing that game on Black Friday. All right, so those are the off-season storylines to kind of bring you back up to speed where Iowa was at the conclusion of last season, going into the beginning of this season. All right, so my first area that I want to elaborate on is my areas of confidence with the Hawkeyes, and I have 4 that really stuck out. So these are areas that I really expect a lot more growth, and I expect them to be very, very solid, if not the top of their game. Because overall, this Hawkeye squad brings back a ton of returning production, which that might be a little bit of a surprise just knowing how bad their offense was last season. But they're top 10 in the nation as far as returning starters and depth. So we are expecting a lot this season out of our Hawkeyes in Iowa City and across the land. Shout out to all of you Hawkeye fans outside of the Hawkeye state like myself. I currently live in the Show Me state of Missouri. So let me know where you're watching the Touchdown Black and Gold episode today. Where are you at, Hawkeye fans? Let me know. Give me a holla. So my first area of confidence, where I really expect Iowa to contend and play and execute at a top tier level, the offensive line. I mean, the last few years, the Iowa O-line, quite frankly, has not been Iowa-like. They just haven't. They've had issues with pass blocking, maintaining their blocks to open up running lanes. I mean, they initially may win the initial contact along the line of scrimmage, but they just haven't been able to maintain that. But there is a ton of experience returning on this year's offensive line. I mean, this should be like the Iowa O-lines of old. I mean, the guys coming back, I'm about to mention, all have numerous years of starting experience. Logan Jones, Mason Richmond, Connor Colby, Nick DeYoung, Jennings Dunker, Bo Stevens. These are guys that we've watched them progress and grow the last couple seasons in Iowa City. All right. So we all know these names. It just comes down to, can they gel? Can they come together? And can they stay healthy? Because that's really leading into my next area where I am very confident with this Iowa squad is our stable of running backs. It's no secret, right? That as Iowa's running game goes, so goes Iowa. All right. Now, yes, are we longing for quarterbacks of Chuck Long and Brad Banks, right? Of course we are. All right. But at Iowa, when have we ever expected quarterbacks to go above and beyond? We've just expected them to be average, don't make mistakes, make the plays that you must make, keep the chains going, and don't put yourself in a bad situation. We've never asked for All-American or Heisman expectations at Iowa from our quarterbacks because a lot of that has fallen on the O-line into the running backs. And we have, just like I said, an absolute small army of proven running backs this year on roster. All these guys come back. LaShawn Williams, Caleb Johnson, Kamari Moulton, Jazzy and Patterson. I expect Iowa to have not one, but 2 1,000-yard rushers this season. And if they can't do that, that's really going to determine the overall outcome for our Hawkeyes this season. But they need to utilize those first two areas, the O-line right into the running back core and vice versa. My next area of confidence where I think Iowa will really excel, and this is another one of those not really a secret, our tight end group. There is no team in the nation other than Iowa that does rely more upon their tight ends than us. That's just how it is. And we have two returning tight ends who really have proven to be weapons. First is tight end Luke Lachey, who returns from an early season injury last season. Seems like he's back fully ready to get at it and go. And during his injury last year, and then also the second tight end was also lost last year during the Wisconsin game. Addison Ostrenga was able to log multiple minutes, a lot of reps, get some game starts. Definitely ended up being a benefit for the Hawkeyes. So I expect these two tight ends to really put up good numbers to, once again, just keep the chains moving. And I think Luke Lachey will end up being Iowa's leading receiver this season and probably their leading touchdown receiver as well. And more on that here in a little bit. Now, my last area of confidence, all right? We know that Iowa's defense is going to do what Iowa does. I mean, we've gotten spoiled in Iowa City as Hawkeye fans that we know what we're going to get on defense. We are going to get a top 10 defense regardless of who we lost or who we added, right? And this year's linebacker core, guys, I mean, they are not only the best trio of linebackers in the Big Ten, but this is the best linebacker core in the nation. I'm talking about Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, and Sebastian Castro. Higgins and Castro, I believe, have both been named preseason All-Americans and preseason Big Ten. I mean, these guys are all over the field, and I think they're going to need to be. I believe Iowa's back seven, so the linebacker core with their defensive backfield is going to be the best in the Big Ten, and right there overall the best in the country. I expect big things out of that back seven, but along the defensive line, well, I'll get on that here in a little bit. I will mention this, but this linebacker group is just studs. I mean, they are men among men, okay? And they are going to rack up plenty of tackles, be filling those holes, dragging down and running down receivers, running backs. I cannot wait to watch this linebacker core work together on the field. So those are my 4 areas of confidence for this Hawkeye squad. Now I need to share with you the opposite. On the other end of the spectrum, my 4 areas of concern. I'm not saying areas of panic or areas of worry, but these are the areas of concern, all right? The first one overall is the wide receiver core. I mean, you can say a lot about Iowa's offense the last few seasons. Who has been the worst group overall? Most people would say it has to be the quarterbacks. I actually would disagree. I mean, the quarterbacks were not good, but Iowa just did not have any wide receiver production basically at all, especially last season. And we do have 2 commodities that are proven coming into the season. Caleb Brown and Seth Anderson definitely have proven themselves to be solid playmakers, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't know who is going to step up, who is going to be that 3rd or 4th option for Iowa outside on the perimeter. We need to see some young men step up, and we got to have at least between 4 to 8 catches every game from our wide receiver core. We just haven't been getting that. And even though week 1 is against Illinois State, so I don't expect there to be much issue with that, but their best returning wide receiver, Caleb Brown, has been suspended for that game. So it would be good to see a couple guys get out there to get some reps, game time, play, just to see who can maybe step up and be that number 3 to number 4 receiver. So I got my doubts about the receiver core. Next, I already kind of mentioned them, the D-line group. Now, don't get me wrong, there's 3 guys returning who can absolutely ball out, who are legit tacklers, can create a little bit of pressure on the quarterback, not lose the initial line of defense. And Aaron Graves, Yahweh Black, Ethan Herkett, I expect good seasons from those 3. But beyond that, Iowa doesn't really have a lot of depth along the defensive line. I would have liked for them to maybe add 1 to 2 more bodies via the transfer portal in the offseason, because you can never have too many fresh bodies, especially in the trenches. I mean, the Big Ten success is always going to start along the lines of scrimmage on the offense and the D-line. Always has, always will, all right? So I am a little bit skeptical, but I do believe those 3 are going to have good seasons just to keep that point of attack, but they must create some pressure on the quarterback, because we all know this. If you're a football person, and I've never claimed to be the good Lord's gift to football knowledge, but it doesn't matter how good your back 7 is, and I think Iowa, as I mentioned, will be very good, but if you cannot create some pressure, an average quarterback at best will eventually just pick you apart, all right? So I am a little bit concerned about the defensive line depth and their production. Next is the kicking game. The 2 most important units for Iowa, tight end and special teams. And the kicking game is really going through a good amount of transition this season. Gone is my favorite Hawkeye the last couple seasons. The punter from down under, Tory Taylor, has taken his talents to the NFL with the Chicago Bears. So maybe I'll try to watch a little bit more NFL this season, maybe. But enters a former fellow Australian kicker, Rice Dakin. So we'll see where he is. He is a freshman, his first year on a college campus. During the spring game and then the other open scrimmage, the Kids Day at Kinnick definitely did do very well. So we'll see how this new punter is. And along with that, gone is utility, versatile player, Cooper DeJean, onto the NFL, stud defensive back, but he was Iowa's kick returner as well. So that will now go to Caden Wetjen to take over the kick return duties with the departure of Cooper. So we'll see what he can do. And now field goal kicking. Now, Drew Stevens does return from last season, but if you can recall, Hawkeye fans, at the end of last season, he definitely was in a little bit of a funk. But during that kids game, the Kids Day at Kinnick, I think he might have missed 1 kick and then was perfect after that. So there is going to be a lot of concern with the Iowa special teams, because that is the key. I mean, Iowa, whatever their offensive struggles will be, but they counteract that and equalize it with elite defense and special teams. And now, this is a no-brainer. My last area of concern, well, that goes right to the quarterback room and quarterback play overall. Cade McNamara will be the starter come opening day later this week against Illinois State. But in the offseason, in the spring transfer portal window, kind of late, they brought in Brandon Sullivan, former starter at Northwestern, and the third stringer will be Marco Lyonez, who's more of your dual threat, just like Sullivan is. And we did see Marco Lyonez last year kind of in mop-up duty in that bowl game against Tennessee. But there has been some struggles. Cade McNamara, and I'm going to start off by saying this. Anything is better than last season's quarterback situation, okay? If Cade goes down, we have a backup with proven experience and who had a very good season last year within the Big Ten. And then if number 2 were to go down, Marco Lainez also got some experience last season. He's been in the program for multiple years. So no matter what happens, okay, we are in a much better quarterback situation this season than what unfolded last year in front of our eyes, all right? But Caden McNamara has really struggled to stay healthy. Is he more mobile than his previous predecessors? Yes, Spencer Petras, which shout out to Spencer for getting named, and he won in the offseason the starting job at Utah State with the Aggies. Shout out to you, Spencer. Best of luck this upcoming season. And also last year, Deacon Hill. Cade can move a little bit. He is mobile, but Brendan Sullivan really is the better option for Tim Lester's offense. Tim Lester, when he was at Western Michigan, highly recruited Brendan Sullivan to come there and play for the Broncos because he does fit his style. More of a read option, RPO, a lot of pre-snap motion. Basically, just get rid of that ball quickly. And he is the more mobile option. He just is. This guy can do some impromptu things, and I think at least 2 to 4 times a game, we will see the old QB draw called from the sideline. And Marco Lainez, like I said, we saw him in the bowl game, but primarily he was just running for his life out there. But doing that, he definitely showed some good flashes of being able to make things happen with his feet. So I think there will be some struggles, especially early on in the season, when they kind of get used to more at game speed, this new offense that has been introduced. And if you watched my bold predictions episode last week, I did say, I believe that by week 5 at Ohio State, coming off of a bye week for Iowa, that Brendan Sullivan from that point would be Iowa's starter moving forward, but we'll see what happens. All right, so all eyes are going to be on the Iowa quarterback room. Kind of like what Tupac once said, all eyes on me. All right, so that's my 4 areas of concern and 4 areas of confidence. Please let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, comment, get involved. Can't wait to hear from you, my fellow college football fans. Next is the 4 primetime players I see, maybe not necessarily breakout players, because some of these have already proven that they're legit, that these cats can play, but I think they're going to take on an even higher level of role. They'll be next level during this season. And of the 4, I want to start off first with center Logan Jones. Basically had to learn a brand new position at one point. He's got a year under his belt as the starter. So I think he will do a very good job along that offensive line, being the general out there overall and the captain. I expect big things from Logan Jones. Next, I already mentioned him, linebacker Sebastian Castro. I mean, this guy is like the human missile, okay? He hits big, he hustles big, and every big play last season on defense, when you go back and watch the tape, if there's a big stop on 3rd down, 4th down, a fumble, a caused fumble, a fumble recovery, a big-time pass breakup, more often than not, Sebastian Castro was involved. I mean, this guy he just oozes big plays. And I cannot wait. I'm so glad he came back for one more year, as did Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson, that awesome linebacker group that I already mentioned, all said, to the NFL. You didn't say the magic word. Came back to Iowa for one more go at it, so I can't wait to watch Sebastian out there light people up. Already mentioned him too, tight end, Luke Lachey. I think he will be an all Big Ten caliber tight end. May not be the best tight end in the Big Ten. I love Michigan tight end Colston Loveland because, I mean, just how cool is his name? But he's got the game to back it up too. But I do think Luke Lachey will be an all Big Ten kind of tight end. And as I mentioned, I think he will lead the team in both receptions and touchdown receptions when it's all said and done. And finally, already mentioned him, defensive lineman Aaron Graves. This guy was like an All-American, one of the best recruits during that recruiting class. Definitely has grown the last couple seasons at Iowa. I believe registered 2.5 sacks last season. I expect him to be a big-time plug in that defensive line unit. I expect 5 sacks this year at least 5 sacks from Aaron Graves. He is a playmaker. He's a baller. But once again, I just have to see that defensive line grow a little bit overall. So those are my 4 primetime players for the upcoming Iowa Hawkeye season. Let me know what you think about that, guys. And thank you for being with me. So glad. Hallelujah. College football is back. So now the moment you've all been waiting for. How do I see this season unfolding via the schedule? Well, let's go ahead and head into that right now. And thank you for everything that you do. Once again, let me get a quick little swig here. The voice is getting a little wore out here, but here we go. So coming into this season, via both BetMGM and DraftKings, Iowa is pegged at 8 wins. So whether you would play the over or under is really up to you. I am going to lay off this bet this season for Iowa. If it was 7.5, I would probably take the over. So if you're going to roll with that solid 8 number, I would be more inclined myself to go with the over, but that's just me. All right. So let's go ahead now and get into game by game. How do I see their record unfolding? Also, I will share with you what I believe is their biggest game of the year, and then also their most important 4-game stretch. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Later this week, and how great does it sound to hear and for me to say later this week, Iowa football will be back at Kinnick. How great is that? Later this week on Saturday, they open up with the Illinois State Redbirds from the Missouri Valley Conference of the mighty FCS. I love me some Missouri Valley football. I taught for many years at SIU Carbondale with the Salukis. You can't sleep on them, but this Illinois State team is not North Dakota State. They're not South Dakota State. They're solid, they're good, but I expect Iowa to absolutely get the W. So I believe Iowa will start off 1-0. Now, one of the biggest games of the season, I mean, easily their biggest non-conference game of the season, this year's annual Cy-Hawk Trophy game is going to take on uber, and I mean big time ramifications are going to go into this game, all right? I am very high on both Iowa and Iowa State. I know Iowa fans, relax. Some of you are yelling the blasphemy. But just to prove to you, I actually picked Iowa State to win the Big 12. I think with their returning production, they're in the top 5. I think that they are ready to do this. I think Matt Campbell will finally take home a Big 12 championship, which would end the longest drought, I believe, of a conference drought in the nation. So big game. This year's game is in Kinnick Stadium. I think it will be 2, potentially ranked teams. Iowa starts the AP this season. In the rankings, Iowa State is just outside. But I expect an instant classic. But I know Iowa fans, if you can't stomach this, here's your spoiler alert. Here comes your earmuffs. I like Iowa State to win this game because of that returning production. And I think just early on in the season, Iowa is going to at times struggle with that offense to sustain long drives or put multiple back-to-back drives together. I just think since it's week 2, I think Iowa State being the more proven, more experienced team, I think they will find a way to get it done. I do like the Cyclones to come home, capture... Actually, it would be maintained since, they would come in and recapture the Cy-Hawk Trophy from the Hawkeyes. So I do like Iowa State to win. Then Iowa's record would be 1-1. Moving on, Troy, the men of Troy, a solid team in week 3 out of the Sun Belt Conference. A new coach this season. I mean, they did win 10 games last year, but they also lost a lot of production. I think Iowa gets the W with this game. And I will mention about that Iowa State game. One more thing. If it was later in the season, if it was like week 4, 5, or after, maybe I would select Iowa, but it's going to be Iowa State. Okay? So Troy, I do expect the dub. Iowa then improves to 2-1. Week 4, their first road game, and it is the Big Ten Conference opener. They travel to the Twin Cities to take on the Gophers for the Floyd of Rosedale. Floyd, we want him back. Last year, we all know what happened with the fair catch call, all right? But will Iowa go into Minnesota and reclaim Floyd of Rosedale? I think they will. We have a brand new quarterback at Minnesota. I think PJ Fleck still will do what he does, between 6 to 8 wins, but I think Iowa is just better. They'll be able to kind of take care of business where Minnesota is a little bit weaker. I think they will take advantage of that. I do like Iowa to win a very, very close game, which is going to come down to who plays cleaner, less penalties, turnovers, and field position. So I think they will take care of Minnesota, then improving their overall record to 3-1, 1-0 in Big Ten Conference play. Week 5, they do have a bye week. Week 6, well, this will be a quick one. I think they will be better prepared compared to the last trip against Ohio State to take on the mighty Buckeyes in Columbus. Week 6, they're at Ohio State. This is going to be a loss. I think Ohio State and Oregon are just so much better than anybody and everybody in the Big Ten. It's not even close. I think Iowa, well, like I said, they will put up a better showing than the last time when it was, 54-7, I believe? All right, something like that a couple seasons ago. But, yeah, this is going to be a loss for Iowa. That would then drop their record to 3-2, 1-1 overall. Week 7, back in the friendly confines of Kinnick Stadium, they welcome the Big Ten newcomer and national title runner-up Washington. The Huskies come to Iowa City with a brand new coach. Kalen DeBoer has left them in the offseason to take over for Nick Saban at Alabama. And this is a team that returns only 2. That's right, only 2 starters from last year's national title runner-up team. Basically a brand new team being broken there in Seattle. I think Iowa will win this game. I think they'll be much stronger and more prepared and more fit along the lines of scrimmage especially. I like the Hawkeyes to win that game, getting their record to 4-2, 2-1. 2-1 in Big Ten Conference play. Next game, Week 8, they're yet again on the road. And this was a really, really tricky game for me. All right? They're on the road in East Lansing against Michigan State. New coach John L. Smith. No, not that old John L. Smith. All right? Previous head coach from Oregon State. Kind of has that same culture and identification as being a Big Ten coach. Is all about physicality, run first. Great hire for Michigan State, by the way. So they're on the road. East Lansing, it's really been kind of a mixed bag, at least in my time being an Iowa fan. The results that they get there in Spartan Stadium, it's not always the friendliest, but not always the most difficult either. I think because this is going to be a major work in progress, a revamp there in Michigan State. I mean, one of the worst teams last year in the previous season. I think Iowa finds a way to get it done here as well. I think they get it done over the Spartans, so that then would move them up to, what would that be, 6-1? No, actually, no, 5-2 on the season. So 5-2 on the season. Coming home for the homecoming game against the Northwestern Wildcats in Iowa City, and I will be in attendance. I will be in the house for that game with my son. We're getting on the road. We're taking it to the streets. Northwestern, one of the best stories in all of college football last season. Out was Pat Fitzgerald. Late in the offseason, interim coach Braun. He gets them to 8-4, I believe, overall. What a great season it was in Evanston. Very unexpected. But I'm not going to say that's going to happen twice. I like Iowa in this game to take care of the Wildcats because I think they're a better team. But also, I don't want to be sent home a loser. I don't want to see a loss. I mean, I've seen plenty of those, and we're always happy driving home with the victory. All right? So then that would increase. That's another victory. That gets Iowa to, 7-2 overall? So then, and after that, another game, and you're kind of seeing this right now, that Iowa really is playing a lot of games back to back. They have that bye week, week 4, but here they are. This is their 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be their 5th straight game. And after Northwestern, they welcome the next week. Mighty Wisconsin comes into Iowa City. Probably what I would say is Iowa's biggest rival, especially in the old Big Ten West. That, hey, the Big Ten West Division crown went through Madison, Wisconsin. Year 2 of the Luke Fickell project up there in Madison. Gone is the power I, grinded out power run game that Barry Alvarez implemented there for the air raid. Didn't really take off last year. It was at times grounded. I do think that's going to happen this season again. And based on their schedule, I think Wisconsin's going to have difficulty even getting to 6 victories. I do like Iowa at home. I think this is their biggest home game of the season. The fans will be riled up, ready to go. And I do like Iowa to get it done, to take care of the Badgers, and to keep the Heartland Trophy. Now, next. So this would be Iowa's 6th straight game. All right. And I think this is where you're going to see it take a little bit of toll. And this is going to be one of the difficulties of the 4 new additions to the Big Ten on the West Coast. Next week in week 11, Iowa takes it on the road. They fly to the West Coast. They play at UCLA in the humble ground of in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, and one of the greatest cathedrals, not just in college football, but in all of sports, on the hallowed ground. It is a Friday night game, though. So here we go with the logistics of traveling, and also how is that going to throw your bodies off? This is Iowa's 6th straight game, coming off a couple of really physical games against Michigan State, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. Unfortunately, I like UCLA to pull the upset here because of all of those factors. I think UCLA will really struggle this year in the Big Ten. I think of all the 4 new arrivals, they are absolutely in the worst case scenario for success. But I just think they're gonna do it. I think Iowa, this will be their one hiccup game this season, to where they just simply will be tired, maybe overlook the Bruins in the Rose Bowl with the St. Gabriel Mountains in the background. They'll be in total awe, paying homage to ghosts of Big Ten football past. I just think they're going to be snake bit. I like the Bruins to knock off the Hawkeyes on that Friday night, short week as well. So that would then drop the Hawkeyes to 2 conference losses. Finally, after going to UCLA, the bye week arrives, the second bye week in week 12. Then they're back on the road. They travel east this time to Maryland to take on the Terrapins and newly added analyst Brian Ferentz. This game brings a little bit of intrigue because of that. Gone is quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He's Tolly, I should say. Oof. Sorry there. I don't do any edits, but I do my own. I do my own stunts here on the Touchdown Black and Go vlog. Talia Tagovailoa is out, no longer at Maryland. I believe he's actually playing ball in the Canadian Football League, I believe. I think Iowa gets this one done. I think they have proven just to be way too physical for Maryland. I think Maryland will score points. Maryland usually has no problems putting points on the board, but they usually just can't get out of their own way. I like Iowa to take care of the Terps on the road. And then finally, week 14, the regular season finale on Black Friday inside Kinnick Stadium. A very different game this season against Nebraska. A kickoff time of 6:30 p.m. Brrr. Hawkeye and Husker fans, you better bundle up. But then again, we love this in the Midwest. This is absolute Americana Midwest football. Black Friday evening. And Nebraska, I believe, will have a much better season. During my bold predictions episode, I did say Nebraska would get back to postseason this year. They would get to at least the 6-win plateau. This is going to be a difficult game. I think a lot of people believe, other than Ohio State, this might be Iowa's next biggest or toughest game, possibly. But it's at home, 6:30 kickoff. I mean, by then, touted stud quarterback Dylan Raiola, who was named the starter a couple weeks ago at Nebraska, true freshman, the future of the program. I think by then he will have made some improvement, but definitely we're still talking about a freshman quarterback. It's going to be cold against an Iowa defense ready to take care of business and to keep the Heroes Trophy. I like Iowa to get it done over Nebraska on Black Friday. So that is my predictions for game by game. So this is where I have Iowa predicted. To me, I think they will finish 9-3 overall, 7-2 in the Big Ten, which 9-3, not a bad season. Not bad at all, but kind of more your typical Hawkeye season. Now, that might make some of you happy. It may not, because I know there's a lot returning, and the schedule is very inviting this season, but I see them going 9-3. Now, where do I see their ceiling? As far as if things work out right, where do I think Iowa can top out at? All right. And looking at the games, looking at rosters and personnel, when do you play this team? Where at? What game did you just get off of? Who are you playing next week? I think the very best that Iowa can go is 10-2 overall, 8-1 within the Big Ten Conference. I just think the two best teams right now that I can say I believe are better than Iowa is Ohio State and Iowa State. I think those will be the two teams that will beat Iowa. So I think the ceiling would be 10-2. Very good season. And guess what? With the expanded playoff now to 12 teams, if you go 10-2, you're going to be in that playoff discussion. You are. If not, you're in. You're going to be one of the first 4 teams out. So 10-2, that really is kind of the level where you want to finish anymore to be in that discussion. So that's the ceiling. Now the floor, I think this season could go from 9-3. Now, not 9-3, which I have them down to 4-8. I don't think it could get that low, but I do see a floor of 6-6, 4-5 overall in the Big Ten. I mean, I could see, at that game at Minnesota, they just have it more together offensively, and Iowa is still struggling. I could see the Golden Gophers pulling the upset there. Also at Michigan State, I mean, like I said, East Lansing, Spartan Stadium, you never know what you're going to get. Kind of like a box of chocolates, right? Also, Wisconsin at home, maybe they just bludgeon to Iowa and find a way to escape Iowa City with the Heartland Trophy. And then maybe Maryland. Maybe, Brian Ferentz, gives the advice galore to the Maryland coaching staff. Maybe gives the team a pregame inspirational speech, and maybe Maryland gets it done. over the Hawkeyes, on the road. I don't know. But that's where I think the floor could be. So 9-3 is what I've got. Ceiling of 10-2. Floor of 6-6. Well, guys and girls, fans, young and old alike, that's today's episode. Thank you very much for all your time and attention. I hope you were entertained. Were you not entertained? Please like, share, subscribe, click that button, and please get involved. I can't wait to hear from you. Comment below about the upcoming Hawkeye season or anything in general. I just can't wait to hear from you, and I'm so excited. Cannot wait for this Thursday night and then Saturday. Later this week, you definitely want to be looking out for my week 1 picks and predictions. So please, click that subscribe button to get notifications. I expect that to be posted midday on Thursday. And that is not going to include any Thursday or Friday night games, just Saturday, Sunday, and maybe the Monday night game. We've got 5 straight days of upcoming college football. It's like a plethora, Hefe. So please look out for that episode later this week. Thank you for all that you do. Go Hawks, and I'll see you then on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Adios.